today. A few days ago, we heard testimony from a number of individuals who were impacted by absentee owners who were not taking care of the apartments that were owned. One of them was Juan Cuellar. He's a tenant at the Bedford and Victoria Station apartment buildings in Langley Park, Maryland. It's owned by an out-of-state publicly traded company. This community is about 84% Latino. Many recent immigrants, they often do not know their rights, and there's a huge sort of information disparity. Mr. Waller, this issue of information asymmetry obviously puts these kind of tenants at a disadvantage. Do you have thoughts on how we can address this so that those tenants can have a better ability to navigate these systems and protect their rights?
Thank you, Senator. Information is really important. So there are some basic low-hanging fruit that court systems and local governments could do, like providing things in languages that people can read, and also providing navigators so that people understand the law and what their rights are. But I would say that even so, even with knowledge, in many cases, tenants simply can't exercise their rights even when they know what they are, because there's a lack of legal representation for low-income tenants. In fact, it's virtually non-existent, despite the heroic efforts of our legal services attorneys across the country. And so local communities and states need to think about the benefits that they would receive if they would provide legal support to tenants. These are very complex litigation. I mean, a landlord and eviction case may move really quickly as 3 weeks in Georgia, but it's a very complex proceeding, and tenants just simply don't have a chance.
So we also have an issue where tenants are engaged in making complaints, and they often go unheard and neglected, and problems build up. Sometimes it's pest infestation. Sometimes it can be deadly situations. We had back in 2016 in Silver Spring, Maryland, which is not too far from the Langley Park area I just described, an explosion that demolished 2 buildings and took 7 lives, injured 30 people, displaced 100. And there was an investigation that determined there were lots of problems and missing things that had happened here. There was finally a settlement that was not disclosed. But the NTSB did look into it, the National Transportation Safety Board, and they concluded that a number of tenants in the building had reported smelling gas in the lead up to this deadly explosion, and that those reports went unheeded. Nobody reported the smell of gas to the gas company. And as a result, 7 people died and 30 were injured. Can you talk, and others just in my remaining time, about how we can change the systems and incentives in a way to prevent that kind of deadly tragedy? This was, again, a building primarily populated by recent immigrants, and people were just not listening to their complaints.
That's an extraordinarily tragic event, and those kinds of tragedies do happen in Georgia as well. One of the challenges we face is that there is a lack of investment in the enforcement of local housing safety laws. And so the housing code enforcement staff is often chronically under-resourced. In some places like Georgia, in fact, their power is, or their authority to actually inspect homes is limited by state law. So in Georgia, it is unlawful for a community to inspect a property at all, or even have a rental registry without probable cause. So they can't go in and inspect unless there's someone there to invite them in. And so if the landlord doesn't do that, or tenants are afraid to reach out, then the property will simply just not be inspected. So looking at those kinds of laws and the resources that we provide these communities, and the role that federal government might have in terms of oversight when it supports investments by out-of-state investors, I think is really important.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Van Hollen. Senator Smith from Minnesota is recognized from her office.
Thank you, Mr.